Tanse, I'm Kusanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Saskatchewan RCMP is asking the public's help in locating a truck believed to be involved in a recent shooting in Sturgeon Lake First Nation, located just northwest of Prince Albert in Saskatchewan. Yesterday, just after 1 p.m., Prince Albert RCMP received a report of multiple people in vehicles discharging firearms at one another in Sturgeon Lake. When officers arrived, they located a white four-door truck with a black tailgate believed to be involved in the shooting, but abandoned with no suspects. RCMP are now sharing this picture of a second vehicle believed to be involved and are asking the public's help in locating it. It's a black flatbed two-door truck. If anyone sees this vehicle, you are asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. No arrests have been made. RCMP continues their investigation this week. RCMP have made an arrest in connection with a suspicious death of an elderly woman that happened last October in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. Last October, Battleford's RCMP received a report that a woman was seriously injured outside a business in downtown North Battleford. 63-year-old Pearl Benson from Red Pheasant First Nation was later declared deceased. Then, on April 11th, RCMP arrested 22-year-old Billy Leon from Toronto in a correctional center in Manitoba. They charged him with second-degree murder. Leon will make his next court appearance in North Battleford Provincial Court on Thursday. Now to Ontario, where the evacuation of medically vulnerable residents of Saskatchewan First Nation began over Easter weekend. Officials say at around 530 people have been relocated from their homes due to the threat of flooding on the Albany River. Citing safety concerns for the evacuees, officials would not say where they were sent, but say they have gone to 2 sites in northern Ontario and 1 in southern Ontario. While they say no flooding has occurred yet, they are monitoring the river closely. Saskatchewan First Nation is located in the northern shore of the Albany River and is on the west coast of James Bay. Repairs have also begun this week on a nursing station in the Niskandaga First Nation after it flooded last week, prompting the community to declare a state of emergency. Located north of Thunder Bay, Niskandaga First Nation says the repairs are expected to take several days to complete. Last week, the nursing station flooded with a strong smell of fuel in the building. Community members were then evacuated to Thunder Bay. At least 100 people still remain there. Leadership has requested the federal government to assist in moving the nursing station after repeated problems of flooding. In a press release, Chief Gary Quisis wants Ottawa to build a mobile emergency health services and deliver a written emergency plan, and also accelerate the deployment of Red Cross and Canadian Rangers for support. And he wants federal leaders to visit Niskandaga to witness the conditions firsthand. Niskandaga also has the longest boil water advisory in Canada of 30 years and counting. Now to our Decision 2025 coverage and a look at the northwestern Ontario riding of Thunder Bay Superior North. APTN's Mike Donald had a chance to talk with 2 of the candidates looking to represent the riding, which is home to many First Nation communities.
With close to 20 First Nations within the boundary of Thunder Bay Superior North and a large urban Indigenous population in the city of Thunder Bay, the Indigenous vote could prove to be the deciding factor in this federal election, especially as the riding is identified by the AFN as one that could swing depending on the Indigenous vote. Liberal incumbent and Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Haidu says reconciliation is what she's hearing about on the campaign.
What I'm hearing increasingly from First Nations communities, not just in my riding, but across the country, is a desire to become more engaged in political systems that are not First Nations political systems, because they see the deep connections between getting their priorities achieved with a government that actually cares and understands about the importance of reconciliation.
New Democrat Joy Wakefield acknowledges the unique perspectives among Indigenous voters while touting the party's Indigenous candidates.
Some people take the perspective that this is a colonial system and they don't don't want to participate, and I understand that. And some people take the position that whatever power they have, they want to use to make sure that it doesn't harm their people. You know, we've seen a lot of strong Indigenous representation coming from this party. Saul Mamakwa provincially. We see Tanya Cameron running out in Kenora, Laura Mayer running down in Algoma.
Haidu says there's still a lot more work to do with regard to mending the relationship with First Nations, adding she will continue those efforts if re-elected.
One of the most fulfilling aspects of the work that I've done over the last 9.5 years, including in the last 3.5 as Minister of Indigenous Services, is forming deep and real relationships with First Nations and Indigenous partners. That's, to me, an essential ingredient in maintaining the strength of our democracy, is that people feel that those systems actually see them and are representing them.
Wakefield says access to safe drinking water remains an issue in some First Nations communities in the riding, as well as access to services such as healthcare.
Healthcare and access, especially in a lot of the rural communities, is being able to access services, having them in a place that's close enough to where they are, and making sure that their interests are heard in Ottawa.
The Liberals have held the Thunder Bay Superior North riding since 2015. Former Thunder Bay Police Chief Bob Herman carries the Conservative banner in this election. He did not reply to our requests for an interview. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
Now to the Northwest Territories, where our APTN Yellowknife video journalist Bruce Dela Cruz gives us an idea of what the candidates there are doing as voting day on Monday closes in.
The Northwest Territories is home to over 40,000 people and is the second largest federal riding after Nunavut, covering over 1.3 million square kilometers. Many problems plague the riding, including substance abuse, environmental issues, and the price of food. But what will candidates tackle first if they are elected? For Liberal Party candidate Rebecca Alty, who was born and raised in Yellowknife and until now was the city's mayor, the ongoing drug crisis is one of her main concerns.
And so really a two-pronged approach is one is on the enforcement side, and so the Liberal Party is looking to hire 1,000 more RCMP, 1,000 more customs officers to be able to reduce the drugs coming into the country. On the other side is the support for addictions, for the trauma healing. So one of the things we recently announced was $7 million for the wellness, for the healing center with the Dene Wellness Warriors.
Green Party candidate Rainbow Eyes is a member of the Danakdao Awitlala First Nation and currently lives in British Columbia. She says affordable housing and social services for underrepresented groups are at the top of her list.
Nobody should be paying like over 50% of their income on their rent, but that's the fact, you know. But I think along with that, the wellness of the people as well for social services, dentistry for the small communities, as well as to us LGBTQ support. I think the wellness of the people should come, you know, with the economy and the wellness of the economy.
NDP candidate Kelvin Kachilier, who is Tlicho and lives in Yellowknife, has also narrowed it down to affordability, but wants to tackle healthcare and infrastructure as well.
With healthcare, we're heavily reliant on the Alberta government when it comes to programs and services, which is very unfortunate, knowing that we're in 2025 and these services have decreased across the board. But when it comes to infrastructure, we have a lot of aging buildings within our communities. A good example would be water treatment plants that are all going to be due relatively all at the same time, which is going to be in the millions of dollars.
With Indigenous people representing nearly half of the total population of the Northwest Territories, we asked each candidate why Indigenous voters should cast their votes for them.
I would, as I said, follow my own traditions to be a voice for the people. And I would listen first, and I would grow community and bring people together, because from my experiences, this is what we need right now more than anything, more than policy.
Yeah, I would say that it's my focus on the big issues that we are facing. So the drug crisis, settling land claims, and growing capacity in Indigenous governments to take on more and more authority.
And the winner of this election, and I would love to be quoted by this, will be dictated by the communities. And there's a lot of people hurting, suffering, frustrated. And if you truly want change, come out and vote. Because I'm going to be putting the best that I can, and I can promise you that I'm going to give it my all.
APTN News attempted to contact Conservative candidate Kimberly Fairman, but did not receive confirmation for an interview. Election Day is April 28th. Voters in Yellowknife can come to the Chateau Nova Hotel at 4571 48th Street. Be sure to bring 2 pieces of accepted ID, which includes a driver's license and a passport. For a full list of accepted ID, go online at www.elections.ca. Bruce De La Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Thank you, Bruce. We have more stories after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In 2022, Pope Francis came to Quebec and apologized for the Catholic Church's role in Canada's residential school system. It was the first time a pope visited traditional Indigenous territory in Canada and apologized for the damage done to generations of Indigenous children and their families and communities. CTV's Daniel J. Rowe has that story.
The other popes, they didn't. Wasn't always smiling. That's what I like. He's always smiling. Yeah, that's all right.
When Pope Francis apologized for the Catholic Church's role in Canada's residential schools, it was a turning point for some.
They wanted to hear that. It was important for them to hear that, to bring them something, some peace.
Wendy Skye and her cousin Beverly Delormier traveled from Kahnawake to hear it.
I felt that when I saw him in St. Anne de Beaupré that he was sincere, and I felt that he heard those people. There was another closed visit with certain individuals invited, survivors, and I felt that he could feel their pain. He was sincere in his prayer too, but he was also, when he talks to people, he really listens to, he shows that he listens to you. He's taking in, and I know he was in pain when he was here.
Beverly's late husband and his 4 elder siblings were sent to residential school as children. She says the entire family took on a lot of their suffering, much like many other families.
He never really talked about it, but we knew his feelings. Once in a while, he would say something here, something there, and he was always sad, we found, and I think he had a hard time. He never really dealt with it.
And so hearing the apology almost 3 years ago now was appreciated.
I was happy about it, that he came here to reconcile this whole, I don't know how to put it, like a lifetime of suffering.
The cousins know that not everyone in the community was satisfied with the Pope's apology.
For him to come here and say the church is sorry for their part of what happened, I was happy about that. And I think a lot of people were, and a lot of people weren't. But they really wanted to hear it too, to make that effort to be there. That's the point, That was maybe that's part in their journey of all what happened, They needed this part to feel a little more reconciled.
And it's Pope Francis's words, on their traditional land, the only pope to ever do that will be part of what he is remembered for. Daniel J. Rowe, CTV News.
This Tuesday was the second day of the 24th Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues at United Nations headquarters in New York City. APTN's Angel Moore is in the Big Apple covering the forum for us.
Implementing UNDRIP, the United Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and holding member states who signed up to it to live up to their commitments was the focus this morning. The Quebec delegation took to Times Square, where they rented a billboard that says, Indigenous peoples' rights call for respect for UNDRIP in Quebec, Canada. Ghislain Picard speaks for his people, the Innu Nation.
Where it's a success, but also where it's a failure. And as when it comes to Quebec and with the Innu Nation, the Quebec government has failed the Innu Nation on many fronts. The caribou, forestry, mining, and so on. So I think the Quebec government is just simply not adhering to the principles. They know it exists, but that's where it stops.
In another session inside UN headquarters, delegates from the Amazon spoke about the impacts of oil and gas extraction in their lands.
From the indigenous peoples, we're telling the world that we don't want any more exploitation in the territories of the Colombian Amazon. I want to specifically talk about the project implemented in the Putumayo department in Colombia, where we have a Canadian multinational called Libero Copper that is entering into the territories, impacting directly indigenous peoples in their social, cultural life, and also impacting the environment.
a los pueblos indígenas.
Talks included member states not implementing UNDRIP and a lack of consultation. The Sami delegation from Northern Europe said the green solution is causing land encroachment that impacts the reindeer herds. That is Sarah Elvira Kamanen. She is the leader of the Sami Youth Association.
And now we also are being affected of this so-called solution, the green transition. But for us, it isn't just a transition, it's more of a dark transition because our rights aren't being respected or our land areas.
The talks continue on Wednesday with the rights of nature and the impacts of continuing resource extraction. Angel Moore, APTN National News, New York.
We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, who do you think will form government in the upcoming election? The Liberal Party, Conservative Party, NDP, other, or unsure? You can go to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls to cast your ballot. Time now for a short break. We'll be right back. Starting on the East St. John 6, Charlottetown 6. 5 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, Sunny and Cartwright at 1. Gaspé 2, Quebec City 7. Ottawa 11, Sarnia 13. 7 in Elliott Lake, Thunder Bay 3. 3 in God's Lake, Puckatawagan 2. 6 in Princess Harbor, Dauphin 2. 2 in Regina, Saskatoon 5. 1 in Uranium City, Stony Rapids 4. Rain in Peace River at 15, Fort McMurray 15. 12 in Lethbridge, Edmonton 13. Campbell River 17, Kamloops 19. 15 in Fort Nelson, Deeds Lake 8. 8 in Watson Lake, Rock River -11. 3 in Fort Simpson, Watee 2. Fort McPherson -8, Colville Lake -9. -12 in Baker Lake, Chesterfield -5. And Clyde River -5, Agulik -10. Post-secondary courses are being offered in Nunavik in northern Quebec, with one launching on April 22nd. As APTN Savannah Craig reports, this is only the first step in a much larger goal, which is to offer students there an opportunity to complete degrees in Nunavik without having to relocate to the south for education.
Education is key, and even better if it's given in our language.
So says Nunavik teacher Jennifer Hopenokme.
It'll help be able to educate a lot more of us whose mother tongue is Inuktitut.
Nunavik does not have any post-secondary institutions, forcing Inuit to travel south to continue their education after high school. The Kativik Ilisak Ni Livinik School Board is taking steps to develop access to further education in Nunavik. Phoebe Bentley is Kativik's Director of Post-Secondary Student Services.
Nunavik is the only Inuit region in Canada that doesn't have a post-secondary institution. So I think it's important to show that students can achieve higher education or pursue higher education in their region without having to leave their family and friends for long periods of time.
She says 8 courses are being developed, and one is launching on April 22nd, called Inuit Media. It will teach students how to produce their own content through audio and video, and will be offered in Inukjuak, Nunavik, and taught in Inuktitut.
For me to be able to teach a college course in my language is really important to me.
Hopenokme says elders will be involved in the course as well.
Word got around back then, even if it was through dog teaming. So I think it's really important that we not only teach the students what kind of tools they can use today, but also what tools were used in the past.
The course is in partnership with John Abbott College, a Quebec institution based in the West Island of Montreal.
We don't have jurisdiction in post-secondary education, so we need to work with partners like John Abbott, who can offer the credits and who can hire the teachers.
Bentley has a much larger goal, which is to offer post-secondary degrees in Nunavik. She is working with Makiyavik, the legal representative of Quebec's Inuit, to try and make this a possibility.
And that's one of the things that we've been lobbying with the government to try to ensure that these students who want to stay in the region we're able to sponsor them the same that we would if they came down south.
Those involved say offering courses in the region is the first step to make their larger goal possible.
What I would really like to see in Nunavik is my children and my nieces and my nephews and my cousins' children and my future grandchildren to be able to receive a post-secondary education in Nunavik, where we belong. I would really like that.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
Thank you, Savannah. And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday, April 23rd. We're back again in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.